Do you have goals that you want to achieve? Well, here are 3 ideas that can help someone be unstoppable in reaching their goals. These are my takeaways based on the research that I've found, as well as books and different resources that I've taken a look at. First, let's talk about winning and dopamine. So there's this book. It's called The Winner Effect, and one of the major ideas relates to this brain chemical called dopamine. This is the author. Ian Robertson is a clinical psychologist, neuroscientist, and professor. A lot of you have likely heard things about dopamine and social media. This article in the New York Times explores the neurotransmitter's complicated role in things like addiction. This is dopamine. Now, dopamine does sometimes get a bad rap as some sort of a boogeyman that keeps us scrolling on social media, even long after it stops being enjoyable, or say, overindulging on donuts and cookies. But there isn't anything inherently bad or wrong with dopamine, just like there's nothing inherently bad about fats or carbohydrates or pens. And you see, dopamine isn't just a pleasure chemical either. It's much more complex than that. When we win, the brain releases dopamine, and this gives us that incredible feeling of accomplishment and motivation. What's really cool is that dopamine doesn't just make us feel good, it actually reinforces habits. This means that every time you win, it's almost like you're training your brain to strive for more success. It's a positive feedback loop, so even small victories can boost your motivation to keep going. Now let's dig into some science. In this paper, we see that the dopamine mesolimbic reward system is critical for motivation. This system is activated during goal-directed behaviors, suggesting that success, which often involves achieving goals, is linked to increased dopamine levels. Then we have this study that shows that higher extracellular dopamine levels and a higher proportion of D2 high receptors in the striatum, which is part of the brain, are associated with high behavioral activity. This suggests that individuals with higher dopamine levels may be more active and engaged. And what are these traits often linked to? Successful outcomes. So quick disclaimer, meta-analyses and statistically significant studies with humans, of course, are ideal. Regardless, when you experience a win, that can cause a positive snowball effect that leads to bigger and bigger accomplishments. If you can stack small, easy wins, you have enough of them under your belt, which can give you that confidence and drive to keep going until you reach even bigger goals. Next, I want to talk about rewarding effort rather than outcomes or talent. So here are some phrases or statements. You're so smart. You're such a talented musician. These statements of praise are well-intended, but do they actually help? You might think that if you praise a child or an adult based on their natural musical talent or scoring the most points in the game, it would motivate them to continue in that activity and succeed. But is that really the case? Well, this study from Dr. Carol Dweck tells us that there is more to the story. By the way, if you haven't already seen it, she has an insightful TED Talk about growth mindsets where she talks about the power of yet and the tyranny of now, among other ideas. Now, back to the study. She found that when we reward effort, we encourage continuous learning and resilience. In one study, Carol Dweck and her team focused on 400 students transitioning to junior high school. Although Dweck's research spans all ages, this particular study zeroed in on older children who have clearer ideas about intelligence and exhibit different motivational patterns. Now, before I get to the findings, I want to quickly talk about fixed versus growth mindsets. If you have a fixed mindset, you think that abilities, intelligence, and talent are fixed. So you might think that your ability to get good grades is set at a certain level that you might be born with, for example. And maybe if you're bad at math, there's nothing you can really do about it. What if you have a growth mindset instead? In a growth mindset, you believe that you can develop and grow if you persevere, work hard, and get guidance in the right direction, for example. Now, back to that Carol Dweck study. Students with a growth mindset prioritized learning above all else. They resonated with statements like, it's much more important for me to learn things in my classes than it is to get the best grades. Now, they cared about their grades, don't get me wrong, but their main focus was on learning. On the other hand, students with a fixed mindset were more concerned with appearing smart and being recognized for it. They agreed with statements such as, the main thing that I want when I do my schoolwork is to show how good I am at it. So there's more of a desire to prove you're intelligent and to make sure that others see it too. One other stark difference was in the effort between the two mindsets. If you have a growth mindset, you view effort as a crucial ingredient for your achievement cake. The harder you work, the better you get, and people people who are on top of their game achieve greatness through years of dedication and hard work. That's what you have in mind. Individuals with a fixed mindset see effort as a negative. They think that if you're truly talented, you shouldn't need to put in much effort. If you do need to put in effort, it means you're not really that smart. The assumption is that if you're a real genius, you'd find things easy and wouldn't need to put in the effort. Okay, so what? By celebrating effort, you're more likely to push through challenges because you're prioritizing the process instead of the result. Yes, of course, results do matter, but think about the last time you reached a major goal. How long were you in that excited phase for? A few seconds? Minutes? Hours? Now, how long were you in the process of reaching that goal? If you're spending a significant amount of time in the process of reaching the goal itself, then I'd want to make sure that it's as meaningful and enjoyable as possible. And that doesn't mean that I have to feel like I'm dancing on rainbows and sunshines while petting adorable puppies with each step. Focusing on effort is like cheering for yourself every step of the way, not just at the finish line. Next, I want to talk about doing what you'll say you'll do, which has a significant impact in building self-trust. Let me first start with a quick story about a polar explorer. So in the early 20th century, Antarctic explorer Ernest Shackleton faced dire circumstances when his ship, the Endurance, was trapped and crushed by ice. This was a bleak situation, but Shackleton promised his crew that he would bring them home safely. And so his unwavering commitment became a beacon of hope. So much so that his leadership skills and commitment show up in places like this Harvard Business Review piece. Despite the harrowing conditions, he meticulously followed through on his pledge, leading his men on an arduous journey across the ice and open sea to safety. Okay, so cool story, but what does that have to do with self-trust and reaching your goals? You might be wondering. Although that was an extreme story, the self-trust built by the dedication to his word that Shackleton demonstrated is what helps to get things done. Imagine that you have a piggy bank, but it's no ordinary piggy bank. It's a self-trust piggy bank. Every time you say you're going to do something that has a positive effect on your health or relationships or finances, like taking a 30-minute walk, and then following through on that plan, it's like adding a coin to your piggy bank. It builds trust within yourself, which is a big part of building confidence. You actually prove to yourself that you can count on yourself to meet your own commitments. And hey, if you can make good on your plan to walk 30 minutes 3 days a week and eat at least one vegetable each day, you might just gain the confidence to run a marathon, for example, or compete in that tennis tournament that you've been thinking about. Next, did you know that there is something that you can do to get things done even if they're hard? Well, to do that, you might want to learn a little bit about how to tackle procrastination. Click here to learn more about how to manage your time. And by the way, if you liked this video, feel free to share, like, subscribe. Maybe there's one other person that this video might help. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye.